I'm not the same person he married almost 10 years ago. He is not the same person I married either. We grew together, then we started growing apart. We somehow got lost in life and started down different paths. So lost that we were headed for separate homes. The love was still present, however. It had been tainted by life, problems, and things we thought were more important. We could both feel that the end was near. Not knowing what to do, we kept quiet as the clouds continued to darken our marriage, hoping the clouds would just dissipate on their own. The sunshine would find its way back, but it wouldn't happen on its own. The day we met. These days, I can't remember much, but I do remember the day we met. We had been talking online and by phone and had set up the day to meet. I went to a friend's home for a day of sunbathing by the pool. After a day of talking, sunning, and swimming, I was tired. I wasn't thrilled about leaving my friends and getting prettied up to go meet another disappointment. I was 37 and had about given up on finding the one. I was content in my single life. I had a career and friends and family. Deep down, I knew that even though I was happy, I still longed for marriage and a family. I drove home and got myself ready to go meet him. I headed towards the park, where we had decided to meet. On the way, something happened to my passenger side window. I had rolled it down and it would not come up. Just perfect. I continued on my way. I met him and he seemed nice. He was easy to talk to, and we ended up talking for hours. I was preoccupied, thinking about my window and what I was going to do. I worried it would rain. Worried the window was destined to be down forever. I ended up telling him about my window. He asked me to let him look at it and see if there was anything that he could do. He was able to get the window to close and told me that now just couldn't roll the window down. Relief. Much better for the window to be closed all the time than open. Our meeting ended with a passionate kiss, and I was smitten. We were married a little more than a year later. The good, the bad, the dark knew we weren't 20. We started trying to conceive soon after we were married. I knew that my age was not optimal for pregnancy. I was already considered advanced maternal age or geriatric pregnancy. Beautiful term for a 38-year-old woman. We battled infertility for a few years. Infertility strained our marriage and damaged our relationship. At the same time, we were dealing with my aging and sick parents. My mother would leave us first. Dear old dad was disabled and struggled to care for himself. So he moved in with us so that we could take care of him. He stayed with us for about a year. Then he moved into an assisted living facility. It was great for him and us. He was happy and taken care of. That is all I wanted for him. The infertility measures and stress were too much to keep going. We decided that it was time to stop. The cost of the procedures and the toll of adding hormones into my body was more than either of us could take anymore. Time passed, and we decided to look into adoption. This was the right decision for us, and soon after looking into it, we became the proud parents of a 4-year-old boy and an 18-month-old girl. We fell head over heels with our children. At the same time, it was hard. We were both working and now had tiny humans depending on us. It got harder and harder to manage the home with children all by myself. I muddled through and just let the resentment and bitterness grow inside of me. I had everything I had ever wanted. How could I admit that I was now bitter and resentful? For about a year, I swam in a sea of work, diapers, parenting, and my dying father. When he passed, I could no longer stay afloat. I started sinking. I couldn't do it any longer. I realized that life was too short. I wasn't happy in my 16-year career, and it was taking too much of my time. I wasn't giving my kids the life that they deserved. I left my job. It was the right decision, but we were unprepared. We went from living comfortably to struggling. I tried to make it as a writer, and after a few failures, I gave up. Then I took what money we had and lost it on a business venture that would fail. My husband was working a lot of hours, but was making little money. We were struggling financially. Problems only intensify when finances become a major issue. This is especially true when it comes to marital problems. I was mad at myself, and I was mad at him. The anger and resentment that I held inside over the years was starting to come out, slowly at first, then erupting like a volcano. I didn't even know this person anymore. I was mad at him all the time. Everything he did got on my nerves. Everything he said I dismissed. We weren't on the same page with anything. Our parenting styles were different. I didn't have time for him because I was taking care of the kids. Things were bleak. We had made it through infertility, caring for my aging parents, COVID-19, adoption, the death of my parents, and a failed business. We were done. We lost ourselves along the way and stopped taking care of each other. The end and the beginning both knew that it was over. We decided to wait until the following morning, when the kids were at school, to have the conversation. We talked for hours. We put everything on the table and decided it was time to stop being enemies. We had both made mistakes and were both in the wrong. We had let it go too far, and there was no way to mend what we had broken. We had grown apart and were no longer the people we used to be. Our problems now were so much bigger than a broken window. We wanted to be friends. We wanted each other to be happy. We decided to separate. It was close to the holidays, so we decided we wouldn't share our decision with anyone else. We ended our conversation with the only solution that we could come up with. We continued with our day. My feelings regarding our conversation went from relief and satisfaction to sadness and regret. I thought I needed or wanted a break from him. I thought it would make life easier not having to work on a relationship. Things would be easier for me if I only had to worry about taking care of the little ones and not him. The more I thought about it, I realized that isn't what I wanted. I wanted to keep our family intact. Instead of concentrating on all the things he didn't, I thought of the things that he did. I needed him. More importantly, still wanted him. But the gauntlet had already been swung. The next morning, he came into the kitchen and stared at me for a minute. I stared back. Neither of us said anything. He walked towards me and opened his arms for an embrace. We held on to each other for a long time. He told me he had changed his mind. He was willing to work on our marriage and do whatever it would take to make things better. After the darkness, the sun can come out. Maybe we needed to have that long conversation. Maybe we needed to face the reality of the pain of giving up on our marriage. Our warm embrace ended the darkness. It was like the sun started shining through, and I knew that there were brighter days ahead. We had to work with each other instead of against each other. We needed to be true partners to each other. We knew that all of our problems would not disappear overnight. We had to work through all of our issues. Our solution was to take it day by day. We had to make time for intimacy. We had to start prioritizing each other's needs. I had to learn to tell him what I needed from him, rather than expecting him to know or read my mind. Marriage is not easy. I put it on the back burner while going through the everyday push and pull. I let it sit there until it went cold and soured. It took a lot of self-awareness and taking responsibility for each of our actions to let the sunlight in. I am hopeful that the sun will continue to shine in our marriage and that the darkness is over. I am prepared for when the darkness returns, to work harder to let the sun back in. Basking in the warm, beautiful sunshine is worth the work to overcome the dark.